What's up guys, my name is Dragon, and welcome back to the Gaming Planet, and as you can tell, today we're in Minecraft once again. But this video was requested by CA144, so of course thank you once again for the request, or for the suggestion. But today, they requested for me to show you guys how I basically build both manor walls, and manor stuff, I guess, or just whatever type of building that is, things for that. And as well as just castle walls. The reason why I call it just manor stuff is because I imagine having a giant building in the middle of a really large thing of land, all owned by whoever owns the building, of course. Anyways, I'm going to be showing you how I build both manor walls and castle walls. And before we get into that, I'd just like to say that not castle walls, but building in general, in any game in existence that you can build things in, be it Minecraft, Terraria, anything else, it's like drawing in a way, because everyone has their own way of doing it. Not everyone's building will be the same as someone else's building. It can be made out of different material, different style of building, different culture stuff, I guess. But yeah, so do not take this as a one-to-one, hey, do this in your builds and all that. I'd just say experiment for yourself and figure out what works. That's what I did a lot of the time. Or watch other people and sort of figure out your own way of building off of them. What I did is I watched people like Grian and people who whoever else you may watch, but I watched them, learned how to build some small things, and then kind of worked off that myself to see kind of what worked and what didn't. But, of course, I will show you how I do these things. Now, I didn't do this red and white wool things for those, but I'll get to that once we get to them. So far, it's fairly simple. First off, we have manor walls, and these are very simple. The way I build them is I make them 3 tall and 5 wide, and you can use either pretty much any material you want, but generally for the little trim around the outside I use any sort of stone, and then for the wall on the inside I could use either stone like I did over here, or wood like I did over here. Now detailing, it's not insanely important, especially with manor walls like this. As you can tell, the middle bit is completely open. The only thing is they just have these little cobblestone stairs and cobblestone walls connected to the little cobblestone pillar on the back. So it's not too important. It's only important when you get up to the larger walls, and I'll show you that once I get up to there. But these walls right here, the ones that have the wood as the little background bit, I'd generally use once I already get the base of the building I'm making. Once that's done, sort of I would build a foundation first, and then build these as the start of it. But then if you go over to something like this and you use stone for the back of them, I just make it. What I do is I just do it like this, where it's just one flat. But if you want to make your walls a little bit thicker, and you want to just have a little bit more depth, not depth. If you want a little bit more depth, then you can set this wall back one, and then just put stairs like that, and then you get yourself a pretty decent wall. But yeah, stuff like this, entirely made out of stone, is what I would use for generally a foundation, just because it looks very sort of grounded, and normally it is what it's used. It is what is used in foundations and things like that. And you can actually use pretty much any material you want to build these things. So I generally use either cobblestone and stone or wood, or stone brick if it's a lot more of a richer kind of place that I'm building at, or that I'm imagining I'm building at, because there isn't really entirely wealth in Minecraft. There's, of course, rare things like diamonds and emeralds and all that. but that doesn't buy you a better building. Anyways, I would use stone bricks and a little bit of a darker wood for things that I feel like would be for more wealthier people if it were in actual, like, the real world. Stone brick, or stone, just in general, cobblestone, is generally for things that would be a little bit less, I guess, money in the real world. But still, it's would be expensive as hell because it's a giant manor that you're buying. Corners, fairly simple. You just follow this same thing here, but instead you would put a little bit of the same thing, like this little bit, on the other side like that, and then probably something in the middle if you want there. I just did slabs like that. Pretty simple stuff. Not hard to do at all, as you can tell there. Generally, for the actual manor, you can use what I did down here, these little things, but these are short and generally will cost a lot of stone. For the actual walls, like these up here, these little bits, you would want to use something more, I guess, open and larger. So as you can tell, back here is more foundation, because we have the entire little design of just doing 3 high, 2 stairs, and then a wall in the middle, like that. But these don't have that at all. These are just the walls of the actual building itself. So these are just a few things that I'd do. Of course, with this one, I'd make it a little taller, because this is just really short. And this one is just cut off because it can go basically as high as you want it to. The only thing I'd say is if you're making like a little I guess module of this insanely tall, then you'd want to make it a little wider as well, just so it doesn't look like overly thin for these things. And then I'd also, if you're making this really large, if you're making a really large wall, the details are going to need to be a lot bigger. So I wouldn't use stone stairs and stone walls. Instead, I'd just straight up change all this to actual blocks and make it a little bit wider, because if it's going to be tall, it's going to have to be a little bit wider. But if you're making it probably around this tall for one floor, then you could easily just go along with the same sort of design on either side. Now you got yourself a decent little wall that you can go off of. Next, of course, are the roofs. And you can basically do whatever you want for a roof. You can have it completely flat, though I don't recommend that at all. Flat roofs are like one of the worst things to do on a build, because then you have no idea if it's still a wall or not, or if it's actually a roof. Overall, it just looks bad. But what I did, and this is the exact same kind of roof that I did in my other video where I rebuilt the tutorial Title Update 11 world. This is the same sort of style of roof that I did in there. Then of course you can tell I did one that's a little bit more sort of rounded. This one is basically you're taking two corners of circles, and making them like join up together up here. It just kind of goes up and then curves back down. Well, this one is like a little bit more rounded and such. With roofs, it's kind of hard to figure out what to do. I kind of just, when I first built this like literally the first time I built a roof like this was in that Title Update 11 world, but I figured it would look good, because generally roofs that are slightly curved, or maybe even at just a straight diagonal, if you build them right, they can look pretty good. But I like doing a little bit of a curve just because then it looks kind of decent. Of course, something a little more curved and rounded like this would probably be more for a barn, I guess you could say, if you're building like a little a little building besides a manor, you could do a roof like that for a barn. Or at least that's what I would do. But using all of these things, I managed to build up this nice little manor. I didn't put any end wall pieces because they're taken up by these dark oak logs. I know it's kind of hard to see. That's just because I have my my shaders on. But yeah, doing all of that, and of course I did do a little bit more, like down here. Instead of using something like this, I just straight up used these little stone bricks and stuff because they line up with this little bit here. But there you go, there's the little manor wall. I did a little circle and of course a window. These aren't vertical half slabs, these are just 2 stairs going like that. And there you go. Pretty simple stuff. Of course it is kind of harder to build because it is a large building. But anyways, let's move on to now castle walls. These things, the thing with castle walls is that they are so unbelievably versatile that you don't even have to follow anything that I'm saying now and still build a really good looking castle wall. Actually, same thing with manor walls. You can make these you can make anything look good if you figure out, take the time, and experiment. That's how generally everything works. Trial and error. But this is generally how I build castle walls. Generally speaking, you'd want the width and the height of castle walls just to be the same. So whatever, like, little module bit, you would want that to be the same width and height. Obviously, with this, since they're connected, the width is a lot longer. But each module has the same width and height to it. And what I mean by module is basically just one little segment of the wall, something like this. Of course, you would connect them all together and make them really long, but this is just one little module of a wall. But as you can tell, this wall is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks long, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks high, including these cobblestone stairs. You can make that one taller if you want to, and that's what I did over here. These ones are 9x9 walls, disregarding these cobblestone, or the stone brick stairs up there. But with the stone brick stairs, it's 9x10. But generally speaking, this little portion of the wall, if it didn't have these, the stone brick stairs on them, it would be a 9x9. You can do them either way, it doesn't really matter too much. These ones look a little bit more squished because they are 7x7, including the dark oak stairs or cobblestone stairs. Kind of like with manor walls, whenever you're connecting them, like whenever you're connecting these castle walls together, you want the 2 either module bits that you're building, because these are 2 modules, but they're connected by this one wall here. That's basically either this bit of this module or this bit. It's basically the end piece, but it also is the end piece for both parts, because it's the end for this wall, or this module, and it's also the end for this one. Simple stuff. Some people might get confused about that, because sometimes around, like if I'm playing on some server or whatever, I'd see people that build castle walls with 2 end pieces, but then their ends would be made with a little, like with 1. Something like that. And you don't want to do that because then it would look sort of just weird and out of place. So of course, however thick the end pieces are, like the end outside trim, is what you want the middle bit to be in between both modules. If you have that end bit bigger, then of course make the little bit on the inside a little bit bigger. But overall, that is pretty simple, and of course, the inside you can design however the hell you want it to be. I just made these little emerald shapes, and I generally just copied that over for most things. I did do a few different details on here, just because to show you guys how insanely different you can make your walls. Like this one, it looks kind of weird. Don't know why. It mainly just used the stone brick stairs, but I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know where you'd use that, or like what kind of style building you'd use that with, but you would have to figure that out for yourselves. This one is just the emerald thing over there, but a little bit larger, as you can tell, because they used 2 stone brick stairs instead of just 1 like I did over there. And this one is just random. I decided to try and detail it a little bit differently. And of course I didn't do anything on the back just because, why not? But going back to this, these are just a little example for corners. Of course, it doesn't matter exactly what it looks like on the inside because you can't see the corner. And there's a few different ways you can do corners. What I do is basically whatever the end part of this wall is, which is this block right here, like this line of blocks. Since that would be generally the end of the wall, you can do one adjacent to it, which is this block, and then continue the wall going that way. And then of course a corner, you can just make a little box, or you can do what I did if you're doing like this emerald shape and kind of make it look like one of those little emerald shapes but over here. Just because then it looks like it still matches with the wall, kind of, if you look at it the right way. And then another way you can do castle walls, or connect them together with corners, is just make it so that this single block here is the corner of the wall. So let me just give you a quick example. Let's say this was the castle wall in question. This little wall here. Generally, how I would build corners is I would go one adjacent, so I'd go over here and do something like that. But another way is just use that one thing as the corner, like that. It all matters, like, what you think looks better. Of course, it's all like opinion based, so one thing could look good to someone else and not look good to another person, which is completely fine. But it all is just a large opinion-based thing. So of course that is a good looking wall. It works and is connected pretty decently, especially if you put in like little bits of detail. Since they connect to the same thing, they can look pretty good. But then you go over here and it does this, and that also looks pretty good. So it's of course all what you think looks better to you. You don't have to follow what I'm saying at all for any of these things. But taking generally what I did, these are 11 by 11 walls, so they are very much larger than those. But you'd also have to make the detailing a little bit larger. That's the thing when you're building things that are very, very big. Especially with the castle walls, because they can get as tall and as wide as you want them to be. You'd want, generally, if you're building a larger building, to make the details bigger, and like less of them in a smaller space. What I mean by that is you can tell these things are very open. There's a lot of space in between all these walls, which you can put a lot of detail in. But imagine if I just put in like a ton of detail around right here. It would look sort of weird and kind of out of place, because if you just put in a ton of detail, then the wall would be sort of crowded. That's the thing with some people's builds. They can look really cool, and they can be very, very small or very, very large, depending on whoever's building it. But if it's overly detailed, then it really doesn't matter, because it then just doesn't look as good. That's generally a lot of things that go wrong with some people's builds, is that they over-detail the absolute hell out of it. As you can tell, I literally just put in a few corner pieces and then a middle bit for this one wall, and it looks fine. It looks like a decent looking wall. Of course, this one is a little bit more detailed, but still not overly, because there's open spaces everywhere. You can easily set it up to be, you know, you can do some of this, and some of this, and then get these connected over here. that. That still doesn't look too overly detailed, but then you can get a bunch of stuff like down here maybe if you want to do something like this, and then copy that same thing over to here and do all that, and then it just begins to look like a lot to look at. You can even do a little bit of things in the middle like that and do all that, and it's a lot to look at. Especially if you're a lot further away, you might be thinking like it's a lot harder to see the smaller details on that. Of course my shaders don't help because it makes things darker, but you don't need to do this overly detailed wall. Especially if you're in survival. If you're building these things in survival, that will take so many resources and you would constantly have to go back to your crafting table to make new slabs and stairs and all of that. So just do yourself the little favor and make your castle walls detailed, but not overly. Something as small as these little emerald shapes, or whatever that is, will work nicely. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was somewhat helpful in helping you find out your own style of building. If you guys want any more tutorials, I guess, on how I build some certain things, and of course leave a comment down below saying what you want me to show you how I would build. Of course, I'm not an expert at building at all, by any means. There's people that are way, way better than I am. But this is just how I would build things, generally speaking. And also, if you guys did enjoy this video, do make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. It always helps me out and lets me know that you guys are enjoying these videos. We're actually reaching not near 100, but we're getting there. We're about at 60 right now. The last time I checked I was at 59. So of course, if you guys would like to join me on my adventures through some certain games and stuff like that, then hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little notification bell, and to be notified, of course, whenever I upload. I don't upload too often. I try to do at least one every week. Of course, I would upload more if I feel like it, but at least one every week, so I'm not going to be blowing up your notifications with just random videos and all that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys also have a good rest of your day or night, depending on where you are, and I will talk to you all later. See you guys.